Dolores Tarver. I'm a licensed psychologist here in Georgia, and it is time for the TT Time with Dr. Tarver is a wellness-based podcast. It is not intended to be a substitute for a relationship with a licensed mental health provider. Hey y'all, we're here in this second week of April. My morning is already starting off full of shenanigans. I went to put on some lipstick, and the lipstick tube just popped right out with the lipstick hitting my pants. So now I have some nice fuchsia streaks on my pants. I just feel like that's just the way April is rolling right now. We just, you don't know what to expect with the weather. Cool, hot, storms. We just, to God be the glory, we're still here. Right? So we are just going to truck right along, me and these pink prints on my silk sucker suit this morning. And we going to be all right, because if that's the worst thing I got to deal with today, then I'm gonna be just fine. So we are out here and it feels like it's still March Madness going on out here in April, because when I tell you the work stress is real, definitely one of the major topics that I have been talking about as we launch into this series for April, talking about these transitions people are experiencing in their job. It may be that you have went from remote to working in the office, pending layoffs. You may be a person that is considering whether or not you're going to take one of the early retirement deals that you're being offered at your place of employment. We've got budget cuts. There is production stress because, again, people are working in environments where there are less people. And so, as a result of that, they're having to take on more work. For some of these positions, if a person retires from them, they take that early retirement, then that means you're going to lose that position as an organization. And then I just feel like we've had a shift in our work values and our priorities. There was a time when I think it was more of an employee on the market, and now it's definitely back to an employer market. And I feel like because of tariffs and some other things going on, people are just very concerned about that bottom line, the money, if you will. And so it definitely seems like more of the conversations about cost than it is about caring for the employees. So you may be in a position right now where you are trying to navigate a bunch of these different things, and you're in good company, friends, because there are a lot of people in your shoes. And so I wanted to take some time today and really talk about the impact of, it could be a layoff. It could be your decision to take an early retirement. It may be that you're just trying to get back in this job market and find something that's going to be a better fit for you because of the changes in your current workplace. And so, whatever it is that may be landing you in this place right now, we're going to get into it today. I do think it's important for us to really talk about our mental wellness, because when you're dealing with stress, it affects a lot of things. As we've talked about before, that increase of cortisol in your bloodstream. I know it feels like I talk about that every week. I probably do to some extent, but I do think that oftentimes we're just not aware that we're stressed. And so oftentimes that stress could be coming out and you being more irritable. You may be noticing that it's just more difficult for you to get up and get stuff done. It just may be taking more energy. You may find that you're eating more, that you're not exercising as much as you did, or you're not attending to your self care and your wellness as much as you were before. You may also find that you're just kind of withdrawn from people. You're like, I got to deal with enough at work. The last thing I want to have to do is deal with people when I get home, which can be a challenge for you if you live with people, if you're dating someone, you have children. You got a husband or wife over there. It could be very challenging for you if you are already coming into the house with your stress level from work on 9, and the cutoff is 10 for you. So I think it's important for us to understand that there are a lot of different losses. And so the loss could be the loss of what you had in your work environment. You could be losing people that you've worked with for years, people who made your job easier. The people that you look forward to seeing. Now, sometimes you don't look forward to seeing all your coworkers. That could be a different form of stress. However, some of us have people that we really truly enjoy, not the ones that take away from you being able to get your work done. Because I know some of you are struggling with your return to work because of some of those chatty Cathys and chatty Kens you got going on that are interfering with you being able to get things done. But those people that really make a difference, some of you call them work husbands and work wives, some of you might call them work mamas, work aunties, work uncles, work dads, who just have poured into you, who have encouraged you, who have nurtured you, or if nothing else, just have been a soft place to land in an environment that's high demand. And so it's really important for us to talk about how much that affects us when we're grieving the loss of someone that we work with. So that is another side effect of this changing environment. You also may be getting different managers. And so the manager you had, the supervisor you had, might have been very supportive. And the one you have now is not as supportive, or maybe they just have a different work style. Some of you are talking about feeling like people are micromanaging you versus people that recognize your skills and talent, understood how you worked, and also supported you and backed you up when there were people pulling at you from multiple directions. Because that is one of the challenges people are facing, is that they're feeling like other people are not doing what they're supposed to be doing because they're overwhelmed, they're burdened, and so more is falling onto them. And those supervisors and managers who are like, hey, right? Like this is where their job ends and their job begins, and that feels really good. So then when you have changes in that, particularly if you are working in environments where there are constant changes, because I do know that some environments have more turnover than others for various reasons. It could be that you are in a military environment, people are deploying, leaving. It could be that you're in an environment where there just is a high turnover rate because people get burned out and stressed out and they leave and they move up, or because we're downsizing and so a lot of people are shifting. And so I think it's important for us to take some time and really allow ourselves to experience those losses. We're also talking about a loss of income. And I think this is the one that really is affecting people is as we're having these layoffs, these potentials for your job to be shifted, the potential for pay cuts. Like some people have come and their pay has been reduced by 20, 30, 40%, or they've had their retirement package or other incentives that they were hired under have been changed. And so now it might have been we were matching you at 100%. Now we might be matching you at 50%, or now we might be matching you at 20%, or now we might not be matching you at all. And so whereas you were looking forward to an opportunity potentially to be able to retire early, now you're having to make some shifts and some transitions because since some of the things at work have changed, and that's also changed the dynamics of your trajectory in terms of when you could retire, and the expected income you would receive when you retired. I know some of you are in spaces and places where you're not old enough to be able to qualify for some of those benefits. And so you're making decisions about, okay, do I stay to be able to be in this environment longer, even though it's more stressful, as opposed to trying to go out into the work environment? Some of you are dealing with hiring freezes right now. So you cannot go anywhere other than where you are unless you go outside of the system that you're in. And I know a lot of the concern is about, well, now the market is more flooded with a lot of people, civilian and federal employees, who are looking for job opportunities. So now it's more competitive, and also the wait time is a wee bit longer. And so whereas you might hear something back in a week or two, it might be 4 6 weeks, sometimes 8, before you hear anything back. And then I know a lot of us have a little bit of fear from during the COVID work environment where people were getting work contracts, but then people were rescinding the offer. And so here you go making arrangements to move and make some adjustments, or put in your notice at your job and resign, only to have somebody come back and pull that job offer away. And then you're out here and you're stuck. And so want to do a few things today to kind of be able to highlight some of the things that's important for you. One, if you don't already have one, please make sure that you get a financial planner. Some of you may be well versed in finances, and that's great. But a lot of us really need someone to help and guide us as we're making these critical decisions. I know a lot of you are concerned about your 401ks right now, your retirement benefits, because of the fluctuation in the stock market. And sometimes we're reassured like, hey, these are normal ebbs and flows, happens all the time, takes hits, then it'll go up. So we expect this, particularly when we have some things going on that will impact cost, right? So we're in this tariff situation. The layoffs, the downsizing, so that impacts a lot on the global market with regard to how some of your stocks are doing. Those stocks that were safe, your Apple stocks, your Nike stocks that you have been in and they have been producing very well, now all of a sudden they're looking a little different. And there may be some of you may have invested in the Tesla stock, and you are definitely having an impact as a result of that. So before you make any hasty decisions, I definitely would recommend that you consult with a financial planner. Look at your long-term options. For some of you that are going to be working another 10, 15, 20, 30, 60 years, then you have more flexibility than someone who maybe wanted to retire in the next 5 years, for example. So making sure that you're talking about your options, how much risk you're taking when you're doing your investing right now. If you want to have diversity in terms of how you're investing and looking at some other options. Some of you may also be in a position where you were going to retire fully, but now you may be looking at whether or not you need to take something part time or you need to work part time instead of fully retiring. So those are also options your financial planner can look at you take a look at with you. And then you also want to consider your age and if you are qualifying for some other things. I know some of us are very worried about the state of Social Security and if you'll be able to get Social Security benefits. And I definitely would encourage you to think about other options in the event. So for those of you who are in your 40s and 50s, we've been hearing for probably the better part of 20 years that Social Security might not be available by the time we got to be in our 60s. And so I do think it's very important for you. And again, there, speaking to that financial planner about your options in the event that Social Security is not available. What are your options? This is also a good time for you to really look at your health insurance benefits as well as whatever you have in place for. I know we don't like to talk about end of life. However, this is also an important time for you to be looking at what you have in place. Are you, because a lot of times people are waiting to get their life insurance, then they wait till they have significant health problems, and then you have all of these criteria you now are flagged about because you have gotten overweight and you got some high cholesterol and some high blood pressure, and now your premiums are higher as opposed to when you're able to get into some things when you're younger and a little bit more healthy, and that may not necessarily be the parameter, and you stick with that insurance. It's also important for you to understand, particularly if you're not certain about how you're going to be maneuvering or if you're going to have multiple opportunities, whether you take some retirement benefits for from a company outside of your primary work environment, right? So I think a lot of people feel like they can only do a retirement plan through their place of employment, but you can do a retirement plan in a lot of different ways. That financial planner will be able to talk to you so that your income is not necessarily tied to whether your employment remains at a place. And I know sometimes people struggle with being able to move things, but your financial planner can be able to walk you through that and look at your best options. I will also say to you all, and I know that a lot of us are not doing the best with trying to be able to put money away because we're trying to accommodate for the rising cost in things. However, this is a good time for you to really look at your spending habits and really think about what are your essentials and your necessities versus your wants, right? A lot of us get comfortable financially. We've had some episodes that talk about financial wellness, but this is a time to really look at your spending patterns and to be able to cut out unnecessary stuff, particularly since the cost of things could be doubling, they could be tripling. For some things, they could be going up 20 and 30%. If you're in a situation right now where you don't need a vehicle, I know some of you like to get a new vehicle every year, a couple of years or so, and thinking about, do I want to really invest in something that is going to be able to last? Some of you may be thinking about renovations on your home, and so you may want to go ahead and get some things in before you have rising costs. A lot can change in a week in this environment that we're in. So also being able to talk to a financial person about that, if you're going to take out a loan and looking at the interest rates and the percentages and being able to weigh some pros and cons to make sure that you're looking at a variety of people as contractors, to be making sure that your contractors are bonded, like all of these things that end up causing problems for people, and then you end up spending more money later on. I know a lot of us have those good friends, or we know somebody that can, but then when it comes time for your project to be completed and this person isn't consistently coming, like, how are you going to navigate that? Or if there are some problems in the way that they are building something, or some errors and some issues that you see, how you're going to be able to address that. So you also have to be thinking long-term investment wise about anytime you contract with someone for a service, that one, you do have a contract, two, that contract has some things built in, so in the event a person does not follow through on the terms of that contract. You have some courses of action that you can take. And three, that you're just making sure that you protect yourself. There are a lot of scams going on right now. And I know a lot of us are like, oh, I'm not going to get scammed. I will tell you that it's very, very common. I have a lot of clients who have been scammed, and it may be simple things like you use your card at a place and your account gets drained. But it also could be a lot of us shop online, which we probably need to get a handle on in this season of rising costs and tariffs. But that is an opportunity for your information to be out and to be potentially compromised if you don't have some things in place. So, in preparation for a potential layoff, in preparation for a layoff, um, if you're in that space right now and you're trying to prepare moving forward, like, so these are the financial plan is going to be a huge part of that. That's also the place where a lot of our stress is. And so oftentimes we're avoidant of that, right? Here's your plug for therapy. You knew it was coming. So we get overwhelmed, we get stressed out, we get avoidant, we get complacent, because it's uncomfortable for us to address the thing that is forthcoming. Some of you are taking some of these early retirement opportunities, but September is right around the corner. So even though you will be getting paid out through September, you have to plan for your after September. And some people are thinking, okay, well, I'll just take this time, get some things done, pay some stuff off, enjoy myself, and then I'll get back on it in preparation for job searching in September. You definitely don't want to be waiting that long, right? And so here's this conversation about your career wellness. It is very important for you to have a career strategy. So, however you are going to be approaching job searching, that you may need to look at a few things. One, you may need to look at when's the last time your resume was updated. Two, you may want to look at if you want to go through a company to update your resume for you. Nowadays, used to be when I, first started working, you could walk in a place, hand them a resume. You could walk in a place, fill out an application. Some people would even interview you on site. And so there was already an opportunity for a connection to be made and for you to sell yourself. Now everything is done in this market of we're applying for things and we're uploading documents, and those documents are being reviewed, and they're being reviewed typically by a programming system that is going to pull those resumes, pull these potential applicants who are people whose resumes hit certain points that are identified in the job description. Then that could be your expertise. It could be your education. It could be how much your resume aligns with the job description. So you want to make sure that you're working with someone who is going to allow you to be able to get past some of these things that often get your resume shelved and not even looked at. So if 1,000 people are applying for a job, how are you going to stand out when a computer software program is pulling the resumes to be able to get the job? And so you want to make sure that you are working with someone who can give you resume coaching. Also, interview coaching has become a dying art that people do not prepare for interviews anymore. And so they just show up and wing it. And I would definitely tell you that if you are in a position to get an interview, that is your time to sell yourself. You want to be clear about what that company does, what you can offer to that company, your negotiation in terms of your salary, what you're willing to accept, not accept. You don't want to be figuring that out during the interview. You want to already have a range in mind. And I think a lot of times people end up in situations because they're not really prepared to address what they might be asked. And also some of those hard-hitting questions like, your salary and your benefits that you get into this interview, and they're wanting to know that because that could be a determining factor in whether or not they'll hire you. And I think sometimes people are selling themselves short because they get a little desperate and they just want some employment, and then you're trapped in another situation that doesn't even allow for you to provide for yourself. So as we talked about the financial piece and making sure that you are cutting expenses and that you're updating that budget and you're living more kind of meagerly, if you will, and getting some of those habits in place so that you can be able to live off less for longer, then you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you're working in an environment that isn't going to be able to sustain your basic needs, which is why I say do your budgeting, the financial piece, before you start looking for a job, so you can be clear about what it is that you're looking for and what you're interested in. And sometimes I will tell you that you have to be willing to go outside of what you're typically used to doing. And so if you've had government employment and you know there's a freeze, you may not be able to get a government job right now. So you may have to go out into the civilian world or the private sector and look for opportunities that may be similar to what you did until that freeze ends and you're able to transition back into a government position. Also, you may be in a position where you're burned out, you're overworked, and you don't want to go back into an environment that's going to do the same thing. Anxiety up, got your arm out here. Getting numb, you having heart palpitations, going to the hospital every couple of weeks because you're in a stressed environment. When the seasoned saints tell you all money is not good money, it's very important for you to understand that the climate in which you work, the environment in which you work is very important. We started off this thing by talking about stress, right? So you want to make sure you're not working in environments that are going to be contributing to your stress. And I know a lot of you are in the space of you so stressed you don't even know you stressed because you've been living with stress so long. Stress has become a part of your identity. In this season of wellness, it's also important, and here's that prevention piece for your health. If you continue to work in stressful environments, if you continue to not prioritize your health and wellness, you're going to be paying more money long term than you will if you just short term set some healthy boundaries and are attentive to your needs, right? So I know that for a lot of us, we've been taught to buckle down, get through that thing, push through, don't worry about your health. You got bills to pay. You're the only person that's going to be paying them. And so you have work to do. You just got to do what you got to do. Right. And to some degree, that is true for some people. Like sometimes you just got to grind it out. Sometimes we put ourselves in positions financially that we have to get ourselves out of. So that means we got to work a couple of jobs, got to work a little extra, do some overtime, make some sacrifices. But that should be short term at best. And so we want to make sure that what we're doing is not contributing to us ending up having longer term problems. Right? You want to trade one problem for another problem. And so you end up being in a situation where I'm going to work myself to death and then I'm going to cause all these other problems. And so that's going to eat up all that money I was saving anyway. So now I'm putting medical expenses on that credit card that I was trying to pay down. So I want you to be intentional as you're looking for jobs. Have yourself some boundaries and guidelines around what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do. Because again, don't just be willing to accept anything. That's just going to put you in a further trap. So we're thinking long-term wellness. We want to make the best choice we can make given our available options, right? Which means that we need to cast a wide net in that job search to make sure that we're having other options. You may want to work with a headhunter, somebody that's going to be able to represent you in finding jobs. So it's not just about you having to do it on your own, particularly if you, because now I will tell you, nothing messes with your ego like some rejections from a job. You might be applying for 25, 50, 100, 200 jobs before you get one hit. And I do not want you to internalize that that means you're not a good employee, that you don't have wonderful characteristics, that you're not going to find a job, because that negativity and pessimism will set in and it'll lead you down the depression road. And you definitely will be avoiding and not doing anything, right? And so then you'll be laid in that couch, unable to get up and do the things you need to do. So it's important for you to have a clear perspective about a lot of people in the job market, a slower process because there's fewer people working and so less people to review those applications, getting past that screening of the computer program to be able to even get through to be considered for an interview. All of these are factors. So I think it's very important, and that's why that headhunter might also be able to benefit you. There are also organizations like Goodwill, Urban League that will help coach you through the job search process. It may be that you need additional training. It may be that you want to shift directions, and so there may be some certificates or some other programs that you may be able to do, and you may be in a season where that's cost effective for you right now, particularly if you go through some of the community colleges and technical programs, so you're not spending a lot of money that a university might be charging you. So you also want to be intentional about that. For those of you who may be wanting to go back to school and you're like, hey, this is my opportunity to get my master's, this is my opportunity to get my nurse practitioner, this is my opportunity to get that doctorate, that you're being intentional about choosing places, that you're not choosing places that are not going to be cost effective and you're not going to be able to make enough money to be able to pay these loans back. And also that it may be harder to get a loan. And so are there some other opportunities that may allow me to pay for school? There are still some programs that will pay for you to go to school if you commit to working for them for 3 to 5 years. You want to look closely into those and make sure that one, you meet the criteria, and two, the program is still up and running. Because I have had some people run into that where they go and they don't ask that information, and it's not verified before they start employment. If that's one of the things that's important to you, is you're talking about your job search plan, your career plan, then you make sure that you have solidified that and that's in your contract. So then you have, again, something to go back to hold people accountable to ensuring that you're able to get that. And when does that program start? Do you have to meet certain criteria in order for you to get that? Oh, you can only do that when you're 2 years into working for us, and you have to have put X amount of money towards something. So finding out all those parameters is very important with regard to making sure that those things are in place too. I will also say that it's important for you to understand that kindness, be kind to yourself in this journey, right? I know that it is overwhelming to lose a job or to have the threat of your job being lost and you don't know what's going to happen, and going in every day with your anxiety up. This is temporary. However, we don't know how long that temporary is going to last. And so it's important for you to invest in other aspects of your life. Make sure that again, your wellness is important, that you have a good schedule of self care, that you're doing things that you enjoy. Go on those trips. Put a little money aside. Maybe it won't be a trip out of the country, but maybe it can be something that's smaller. Make sure you're not internalizing these things, that you ask for that help, that you talk to people about what you're feeling and you're experiencing. So you're not going to allow this illness to sit up in your body because you're internalizing this stress and it's showing up in your sleep and making your hair fall out in your neck and your shoulder and your back are tight and your knees are tight. And you're out here getting migraine headaches and you clenching your jaw when you're going to sleep and you having these random nightmares that you don't understand because they don't seem related to things, right? So again, that's why it's important for you to utilize all the support you have. If you lose your insurance, there are agencies that do offer free services, free counseling, free health care. Make sure you get connected to those agencies. Make sure you know those agencies before you're in a situation where you need them. It is always better to be preventative than it is to be scrambling around trying to find resources once you lose them. You also may be in a situation where you need to get some temporary insurance, and making sure you have someone who can navigate you through that process of understanding your insurance, making sure your providers accept the insurance, making sure you can pay the deductibles, making sure that you can pay the co-pays, making sure you can pay the premiums for those insurances as you're making those decisions for yourself. It is going to be a tough time, people. It is. But you do not have to go through this by yourself. There are a lot of resources out here available to you, and it is always going to benefit you to have a plan. All right. You all hang in there. And most importantly, be well.